Hello, my name is Mihori Yamamura. I'm a PhD student at Tokyo Institute of Technology, Graduate School of Design Science. Now, I'll be talking about the influence and importance of sacred places in community activities and the coexistence between locals and their environment. In Japan, people have long revered all things natural, such as thunder, rain, huge trees, and so. The Japanese people saw both a good side and a terrible side to them. For example, rainfall was necessary for agriculture, but at the same time, there was always the fear of flooding. The Japanese people prayed to their gods for increased blessings and the prevention of disasters. In rural areas, some of these prayers became annual seasonal events that followed the agricultural cycle. They held these events with their family and the community to pray for good health and a good harvest. However, in Japan, the introduction of new technologies that improved productivity during the period of rapid economic growth drastically changed the way residents connect with nature and the natural environment. In recent years, many of the old natural annual events which fostered a sense of community among local residents have gone out of favor. In this study, we examined the contemporary value of a sacred place that has been revered since ancient times. We interviewed local residents and analyzed the activities concerning the pond called Nuinnoike and the water deity Benzaiten in a case study. We also used document descriptions of the area. The chapter structure is this. The Nuinnoike Pond is in Kawazu Village, Suko District, Shiroishi Town, Saga Prefecture in the west of Kyushu, the southern island of Japan. Benzaiten is enshrined in the middle of the Nuinnoike Pond, where residents come to get spring water. On the south side of the pond, there is a community center for residents, where they eat, drink, and relax together after work and events. In the past, the water of the pond was used for irrigation and drinking. They washed vegetables and grain by the pond, and gathered fish from the pond. The rituals and maintenance of Benzaiten have long been the responsibility of Kawazu villagers. The rituals are performed 4 times a year by the residents. The spring ritual on Snake Day in April is for welcoming the gods from the mountains down to the rice puddles. The summer ritual in July is to pray for a good harvest. The autumn wind ritual in September is to pray for the protection of crops from the wind damage. And the winter ritual on War Day in December is to give thanks for the harvest to the gods and to send them back up the mountains. Daily maintenance of Benzaiten consists of cleaning and weeding the precincts. Concerning the pond, there is a special cleaning in midsummer to remove underwater grasses. In the village, there are many other collaborative efforts. The most typical is cleaning of agricultural waterways during winter, which is the off-season for farmers. Almost all of the residents of the community work together on these tasks. After work, they share meals and drinks while talking about daily matters or problems in the community. These are the opportunities to communicate with people outside the family. This circular chart simultaneously shows the times and the locations of existing activities, when they are held and where they take place. It is represented by concentric circles showing the Nuinnoike and the Kawazu areas, with Benzaiten in the center. The circle is divided into 12 months. We plotted a symbol for each activity corresponding to the location and the month in which the activity took place. This shows that existing activity take place throughout the year. In other words, they have opportunities for good communication throughout the year. Next, I will explain the historical background of the birth of the new activities concerning the Benzaiten and the pond. The pond is located on the western edge of the vast plain, where rice cultivation has flourished for centuries. However, the area lacks a water source, so the local people regularly suffered from freshwater shortage, as there are few large rivers in the area. These pictures show the old way of irrigation from low-lying moat with human power before agricultural modernization. Of course, water pumping was very tough physical labor. In those days, water supply was always so difficult to secure, sometimes resulting in conflicts during times of drought. Things changed when electric underground water pumping was introduced in the Taisho period. That made farmers not only free from the hard labor of getting water, but also the harvest amount of the area rose to the highest level in Japan. Since the groundwater was used freely without planning, problems such as land subsidence gradually appeared. The spring water in Nuinnoike dried up, exposing the bottom of the pond in 1958. Nevertheless, the use of groundwater continued, and no one complained about the depletion of the water or subsidence of the land. Concerning the Nuinnoike, converting the bottom of the pond into the parking lot was occasionally proposed, but each time most locals disagreed, because they strongly believed that if we fill up Benzaiten's pond, we will receive some kind of punishment. So the pond was kept in its dried-up state, and the existing activities related to Benzaiten, such as rituals, cleanings, and maintenance, continued. The elderly people enjoyed using the precinct as a field for ball sports. To prevent groundwater pollution, the government built a dam to draw water to the plain, and they limited the pumping of groundwater. In April 2001, some part of the water supply was replaced by this new water source, and after that, clear, cold water began to accumulate in the pond. The spring was restored for the first time in 40 years. After a while, the water had filled the Nuinnoike pond. This scene brought back many fond memories among the elder residents. People in the community were inspired to do something together, so at first they constructed a water intake plant and tested the water quality. Next, they had a tea ceremony event using spring water. The locals started to think that it would be better to have a core organization to carry out these activities. So, in July 2002, the Nuinnoike Yusukai, or Pond Spring Water Association, was established and formed by the residents. They took part in a workshop kind of like a competition showcasing waterfront civic activities from all over Japan, and they presented their tea ceremony event and cleaning activities. Then they won first place. At the workshop, they received some advice on how to revitalize their activities. Their winning first place was published in a local newspaper. The following year, several new events were planned and executed, such as a project to decorate the approach to Benzaiten with flowers, a fishing event, and an underwater creatures survey. These activities were highly evaluated by the government, and Yusuikai received from many awards. In 5 years after the establishment of the Yusuikai, the events attracted many people were based on advice from others. As the number of awards and visitors increased, they began to receive many questions about Benzaiten and the pond. The members of the Yusuikai had heard brief outlines of them, but they did not know the details, so they could not answer the questions they received. Therefore, in 2006, they organized the Nuinnoike History Study Group. They invited a local historian to the community center and began to studying together. They understood the letters on the stone monument in the area, which they had been unaware, even though they were familiar. They asked local elders about the history of the area, and asked them to make a picture map of their memories. They inquired at archive keepers and collected documents. They recorded them and deepened their understanding. Through these activities, they learned that Benzaiten and Nuinnoike have a long-standing history and rich folklore. For example, the water of Ampukuji Temple on Mount Kishima was revered as the sacred water of the goddess Kannon. At the end of the Heian period, the Lord Taira no Shigemori, who presented the sacred water of Kannon to an alien emperor, enshrined Benzaiten in the center of Nuinnoike in gratitude. The booklet entitled Visit the Historical Heritage of Kawazu District was created. That was distributed to the residents. The booklet was well received. This historical study provided an opportunity for residents to take a fresh look at their hometown. After understanding the meaning of the stone monument of the Hojoike, the locals realized that we had to take care of the creatures in the water. Then, the event called Hojoe, or releasing living creatures into the pond, which had long been discontinued, was revived in 2006. Next year, at the same time as the summer ritual, a candlelight night in which children line up handmade candles on the approach to Benzaiten and around the pond and light them, was established. There was also a concert and fireworks display. It has become a popular event for young people. Work also began in the elementary school to teach the children about the history and folklore of the area. The event, which began after historical study, was an opportunity for children to learn about the history and the lore of Benzaiten and the pond, which has been passed down in the community. Children's Furu, a local original dance, which had been stopped for a long time, was revived in 2015. The locals reintroduced fireflies that were present before the pond dried up, and now they enjoy firefly watching in the summer. These new events are being held to bring the area back to what it used to be. Recently, a lot of people come to the Nuinnoike pond to draw spring water. On a sunny day, people sit on benches in precincts, eating lunch and chatting. Children play in the water after school. Nuinnoike and Benzaiten have become a place of recreation and relaxation for the community. Pamphlets produced by the local government feature Nuinnoike, and some visitors post photos on social networking sites. Unfortunately, after the corona disaster, all events of Yusuikai were cancelled. We have added the markers of the new events conducted by the Yusuikai to the previous circular chart. This reveals that a variety of new events take place throughout the year, and some new activities are held in conjunction with existing activities, such as candlelight nights coinciding with the summer ritual. To understand the development of Yusukai activities, we have created a chart showing which activities took place in which years. Existing activities such as rituals and cleaning of Benzaiten were always held. These continued even when the pond was dry. On the other hand, we find different situations in the new events conducted by Yusuikai. Throughout their 21 years of activity, we could divide them into 5 periods, based on their feelings and their characteristics of their activities. Phase 1 is the birth period of Yusuikai. Phase 2 is the period of growth, when new activities were initiated. Phase 3 is the turning point, when they study the history and rediscover the value of the community. Phase 4 is the period of development. They held some new event to teach and pass on to the children what they learned. Also, they desired to make the pond what it once was. Under Corona disaster, they cancelled all events, but Benzaiten villagers with special care. When the water returned, their communication was well because they had been continuing existing community activities even when the pond dried up. So they were able to start the Yusuikai activities promptly. Furthermore, they could do new activities and keep them going. In other words, the collaborative works that they performed in the same way every year led to create new activities and enable them to keep them going. So, why were they able to continue the existing activities so well? It can be said that it was because of their reverence for Benzaiten. Let me remind you that for the Japanese, the gods give both blessings and disasters. Their Benzaiten is also sacred enough that it makes them think that they will be punished if they disregard her, and their own Benzaiten contributes to keeping the local environment in the state. Conclusion. From our case study, before the high growth period, the local people prayed to the god, the sacred place in the community, for good health and good harvest. However, modern technology arrives to guarantee both health and harvest. During the depression of the water, they kept the pond in its state because of their awe. Through historical study, they discovered their hometown, and now they want to keep the environment similar to what it once was. And the sacred place Benzaiten and the pond have become a place for people to interact and work together, and greatly contribute to the liveliness, which is much needed in the village nowadays. Even today, people are still in awe of Benzaiten. This is manifested in the fact that the seasonal rituals and cleanings of Benzaiten have continued even in the Corona disaster, though all other new events have been stopped. So we could say from our case study that the awe of Benzaiten and gratitude for the spring water revitalize the village and protects the environment. In other words, their awe and gratitude have fulfilled the wishes of the community. This is the contemporary meaning of sacred place and community activities and their connection with coexistence between locals and their environment. Thank you for listening.